Big week for the Red Sox. And I know a lot of you think that I typically get annoyed when the Red Sox are good. It's quite the opposite. I'm happy when the Red Sox are good, like most people are happy when the Red Sox are good. It makes them infinitely more interesting, which is why we decided on a special and rare off-season edition of the Baseball Hour podcast. Jared Carrabis, kind enough to join us. So, Jared, thank you for being here.
Anything for you, Tony. I would do anything for you.
Yeah, there are a lot of people that think just like you do or don't think like you do. So let's start with the obvious. Let me ask you about the entire offseason culminating in the addition of Alex Bregman here in the last several days. So Walker Buehler, obviously the Garrett Crochet deal, now Bregman. What is the ceiling for this team? Let's be realistic, try to keep it real, but how close are they to being a World Series caliber team?
You implying that I don't keep it real, Tony?
Well, I think sometimes you get a little over your skis.
I mean, usually I'm right. And in 2018, I was like, this team's going to moonwalk to the World Series. You told me to keep it in my pants, and they moonwalk to the World Series. So sometimes I'm right, Tony. And with this team, I think it's going to be short of 90 wins, but a wild card team. I think like 88, 89. And, it's going to be, I think we're going to go into September being like, I hope so. This would be great if they could hold on. I don't think it's going to be some sort of cakewalk, but I think they're going to be better than they were last year. And I think that they're going to be enough to get into the postseason. And if they get into the postseason, like, you know how it is. I mean, it's almost like the wild card teams have an advantage over the division winners. I think like the Dodgers were the first division winner that we've seen under this new format to really hold the advantage of a division winner through the format. But that's my hope, is that they're in that 88, 89 range, and then that's enough to get them in.
So, Jared, look, in all seriousness, I think 90's in play now. Okay. And up until Bregman came, I did not think the Red Sox were a 90-win team. I thought they were in the mid to high 80s. I think Bregman changes that, and I want to ask you about where they're going to play him too, but hold on to that thought for just a second. So I still think they're about a player or maybe even two away. But here's the thing I like about it is that obviously it makes them a serious contender, for lack of a better word. I don't think they're the best team in baseball. I don't think any of us do. But I think it makes them a serious contender, and I think it indicates some level of seriousness about competing now versus later. And again, people shouldn't confuse competing with championship. But I also think that where you begin and where you end are two different things, Jared. So, and I'm not telling you anything you don't know. The point being, by the time you get to June or July, there will now be an entirely new market. You can add to your team. You can get better. You can make trades. You have a better clarity on what some of these young guys can do in their first year. And honestly, I'm not expecting all of them to break camp with the team. So I think there's the chance that they will improve with some reinforcements just internally later on. But in terms of who's going to be a part of this at the beginning and who is not, what is realistic to think from, the group of Marcelo Meyer, Roman Anthony, Christian Campbell? Do you think any of them will break with the team, and what can the impact be?
I still think Campbell has a very real shot to break with the team. Just like from them not committing to Bregman at second base right now means, hey, let's see what this kid looks like in camp. They know who the player is for the most part. They don't know what he is at the big league level, but they know what he's capable of based on the sample sizes that they've had at every single level. He's hit at every level. He hasn't. I know that that's kind of what you look for before you promote one of your top prospects is how does he handle adversity? We may never know that with Christian Campbell. Like he just could start up again at AAA. He was up there at the end of last year. If they start the year with him in Worcester, he could have an OPS of 1,200 in April. And then you're just like, all right, now what do we do? Do we keep waiting to see if the adversity comes, or do we call him up because we can use him up here? So I think Campbell is number one just because of the availability. He can play second base, but he can play anywhere. So I think if a hole opens up somewhere in the defensive alignment, Campbell is going to be the first guy to fill it. And then obviously you have Roman Anthony, who's 20 years old. And like, could he use a little bit more time? Sure, I guess. But and then Meyer, I don't expect to see him until the summer at the very earliest, because that's the guy. Because if there's an infield spot that's going to open up, Campbell's the guy. So I don't know when we see Meyer.
Okay, so why isn't Meyer before Campbell? Is it because of injuries? Is this because he's left-handed? Like, why is Meyer behind Campbell?
Both. And I just think that in terms of what we've seen at the minor league level, Campbell has A, stayed healthy, which is important. And B, he's wowed us more. He's had the wow factor. I think Meyer has had some good numbers, like his OPS will be in like the 800s, mid 800s, but what Campbell's doing, like they call him Barry Bonds down there, Tony. like you don't get called Barry Bonds with an 8-something OPS. So I think the wow factor, the versatility, the defense, the maturity that he's shown, and to be that good, he's super humble. Like I think he's ready. I don't know. I mean, I'm not like a talent evaluator, but when you look to check certain boxes, like what boxes should a prospect check for you before you call up a top 10 prospect in baseball, what's left for him to check?
So, Jared, I'm going to let them get away with calling him Barry Bonds. I'm glad you said them and not you, because I tell you to keep it in your pants.
Mm-hmm. I'm a Barry Bonds guy.
Say that again?
I'm a Barry Bonds guy, so I don't just throw Barry Bonds around like it's nothing. Yeah.
Okay. So, look, the kid has just rocketed through the system. And so my question, though, is when you say he can play anywhere, can he play anywhere average, an average defensive ability, or can he play anywhere with good defensive ability? And obviously what I'm getting at is second base. So if he's not ready to play second base at a above average level, is the phrase I'll use. I don't want average. They haven't been able to turn a double play for 2 years, Jared. And so maybe more, but they haven't had a second baseman since Dustin Pedroia was here, not a regular second baseman. I would rather have Bregman at second and Devers at third, assuming that Campbell's not ready. But you tell me, defensively, I don't care about the bat for this question. Defensively, is he ready to play second base in the big leagues?
Yeah, no, I believe that. I believe he could play left field. Like there were some nights in Worcester where they stuck him out in center field. They were just like, yeah, sure, wherever you want to play, go play. He's an athlete. I understand that, when you look at a kid like Bregman, it's like, yeah, like he came up as a shortstop, but then he also went over to third base and he hasn't played second base at the big league level. Like I would look at Bregman and say the same thing. He's an athlete. Like I have no concerns about him playing second base. And I look at Christian Campbell the same way, where if you told me, hey, Bregman is going to be our second baseman, we're going to keep Rafi at third, but how about we stick him out in left? If you ask me the same question, do you have any concerns about him defensively in left? No, I don't. If you can play center field, you can play left field. So I personally don't have any questions about the defense. Is he going to win a Gold Glove in his rookie year? Probably not. But is he going to be a defensive liability? No. Do I trust in his ability to turn a double play soundly? I do.
Okay, so give me your ideal scenario of who ends up where. And I'll say to start the season, but I ultimately mean the ideal setting. Okay, the ideal lineup for you defensively, who is where?
Ideal for me is Campbell at second, Bregman at third, Story at short, Casas at first, Devers at DH, and then you got to figure out what to do with Yoshida. I mean, I think that the whole winter I've felt that way, but you kind of get discouraged about the thought when the Red Sox attached Casas to Yoshida to get rid of him and still couldn't do it. So I don't know. I mean, if you're going to be the big bad Red Sox again, that's spending $40 million a year on a player, and I know that there's deferred money, but it's still $40 million or a year, then just eat the money to move on from Yoshida. And it feels weird saying that too, Tony, because I don't think Yoshida's not a bad hitter. He's a solid hitter. It's just his inability to play defense is what makes him incompatible with this roster, right. Especially if you're paying Rafael Devers north of $30 million and it inevitably is going to become your DH, then Yoshida just doesn't fit. You have to eat whatever you have to eat and just move on.
So look, that is now this is their problem, and not that the rest of us don't care how much they're paying a designated hitter. But I admit Devers to me always has had more value if he can play third. You do what's best for your team. So the bottom line is if he can hit, stay healthy, and be a 35, 110, 120 RBI guy with something close to a 900 OPS as a DH, then you pay him whatever you have to pay him. But when you add up him and Yoshida, that's almost $50 million committed to a position that doesn't play defense, which is ridiculous.
And they're both lefty.
Yeah. So look, I get it. I understand. I would rather have Bregman at second to start. Campbell's got to prove to me that he can play second base before I believe it. Not that we know that Bregman can definitely do it, but I would agree the best team is if Campbell can play second, Bregman can play third, Devers DHs. One of the other questions I have for you is, I'll tell you what, before I even get to whether or not the Red Sox are done, you said something on your podcast recently that I found interesting regarding how this whole thing happened. So I think, Jared, the Red Sox didn't go to the market. Part of the reason I'm still a little concerned about the Red Sox approach is because I didn't see them extend themselves on this deal. What I saw was them do what they've historically been willing to do, which is pay more over a short-term deal if they have to get a player. And in many cases, the player hasn't necessarily been willing to come to do that. They take more money over a longer period of time. In this case, Bregman did that. He was willing to take the shorter term deal. But really, this comes down to who gets credit. And so I'm going to play for you, Jared, just so we're in agreement over what you said. Here is what you said on your podcast about how this all went down.
Episodes ago, when I said like someone high ranking, I have a feeling that someone high ranking wants Alex Bregman. I was talking about John Henry. At that point, I feel like he had gotten in the mix. The guy that a lot of people, and rightfully so, question, does this guy care about the Red Sox anymore? Is he invested anymore? Is he paying attention anymore? Is he asleep at the wheel? Is he more interested in his other ventures? That guy, John Henry, he got involved in this. He made it clear, we want the player. I think John Henry got to a point where he was willing to write the check for Alex Bregman. Then it was up to Alex Bregman to make the decision. Do I want the 3 years for the big AAV, or do I want the 6 years? That becomes an Alex Bregman decision. John Henry put the ball in Bregman's court. Like, hey, we don't want to commit to 6 years. We're not doing it. I know you're looking for 6 or 7. We're not interested in doing that. We're gonna do 3. How about 5? How about 3? Will you do 4? How about 3? And if it was 3 for 100, then it's like, yeah, I can't do that because the AAV, it's kind of close to what I'm getting for more years. Why would I do that? All right, boom. How about $40 million a year? And you can opt out after the first, you can opt out after the second.
Okay, so ultimately Bregman took the deal, which I think is a credit to him. I think it says that, to me, Bregman made this deal happen. True or false?
I mean, it takes 2 to tango, Tony. I think kind of how I laid out there. Like, that's pretty much how it played out. Like, I know, like on the podcast, I'll always say like, oh, hypothetically, or I think this or that. Like, no, that is how it played out. So I give credit to both sides. I think if we were the Detroit Tigers, would he have taken 3/120 to go to Detroit? Or if we had the Tigers offer of 6 years, whatever it was, 170 something, I think he takes the 6 years, 170 to come to Boston still. So there's 3 layers to it. Bregman has to be a willing participant. John Henry had to juice the AAV. But I think the market had to be enticing. I think the place to play had to be enticing to him. And when you look at the statistics of Alex Bregman at Fenway Park, statistically the highest OPS in history, minimum 95 plate appearances, that plays a part. I think if he had a career 702 OPS at Fenway Park and all the offers were the same, he's probably a Cub. Like, I think it was all 3 factors that played a role here. So you can't just credit one entity.
Okay. Are they done? Because I don't think they're, when I say, I don't know if they're done or not. I'm just telling you, I don't think they're all the way there yet. To me, I wanted another pitcher. Walker Buehler still scares me a little. I'd have preferred a guy like Max Fried over Walker Buehler. You want to tell me you could have had them both and Bregman, which I think they could. That's what I would have preferred. But you tell me, are they done?
Are they done, or will they make another move? It's two different questions.
Okay, will they make another move?
I'm reluctant to believe that. Are they done? No. I mean, I saw the Sean McAdam report this morning, which was actually my report from 2 days ago about Dylan Cease. Yeah,
so
like
taking credit.
I mean, can I swear on this?
Can you what?
Can I swear on this?
So honestly, I don't know the answer to that, but go ahead and we'll keep it out if we have to.
I fucking broke that story 2 days ago. And then I see it making the rounds this morning. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I put that out there a couple of days ago. But yeah, Dylan Cease, they were calling. I don't know how serious it was, though, if we're being honest. That's why, like, I didn't even bring it up on the podcast, because if it had legs, then I probably would have brought it up. But when I tweeted about it, it was someone tweeted me asking, do you think the Red Sox should call on Michael King? And I said, they want Cease. And it's because I knew that they were calling about Cease. So I don't think that has legs. I don't envision that happening. I think I don't think the Red Sox are putting their feet up on the table and saying, what an offseason, boys. Like, we're done here, because I think that they could still add to the bullpen. I know, your points are valid about the rotation, and Cutter Crawford now, that sounds like it could be a situation, even though, I mean, he was the odd man out in the rotation anyway, but they were talking 6-man. And if they were going 6-man, then Cutter does factor in. So yeah, I think they kind of can't be done. Whether or not they make a move, I'm not sure, but they can't be done right now.
Okay. And when you say Cutter Crawford, you mean that he could be a candidate for a trade?
No, I'm saying he has like an injury that's like setting him back. And I think that they're being a little coy about the severity.
Yeah. Okay. So you think it's worse than they're reporting?
Yeah. I think Cutter kind of said that he might need surgery. And then the team said, we're going to try and rehab and strengthen it before we go that route. So that doesn't sound great. Okay.
Got it. Right. And so let me ask you two more things and then we'll let you go. Number one is typically, small market, mid-market teams will tamper with players' service time and prevent young guys from breaking with the team because, they want to keep them in the system longer. They want to keep them in the organization longer, and it also mitigates some of the payment responsibilities. Do you think that's at play with the Red Sox? Are they going to dink around and keep these guys in the minors to start the year so they don't start the clock on service time?
No, just because I believe that Campbell is a guy the Red Sox would love to do, like the Jackson Churio type thing, where it's like, we'll extend you until you're 30 without seeing really any or very minimal time in the big leagues. Like him and Roman Anthony are guys that I could absolutely see the Red Sox trying to do that with. So if you do that, if you accomplish that, then who cares about the service time, because they would already be under team control past their third or fourth ARB years.
Okay, just a quick follow-up before I get to the last question, because you mentioned Roman Anthony. Mm-hmm. In the Cease scenario, the Dylan Cease scenario, would Wilyer Abreu be a candidate to go on that deal?
Definitely. Yeah, I know the Padres like the player. And I think for, Wilyer could be a Gold Glove, Silver Slugger type. And I know you love those. I heard you say that on Felger and Mazz. You love the Silver Slugger, Gold Glove type players. Complete players, Tony. I'm a fan. I'm a coworker. I'm a fan too. I listen when you talk ball.
Appreciate that, Jared.
Of course. I know that they like the player. It would suck to see Wilyer go, but you kind of ease the logjam because they're committing to Rafaela in center. Whereas it's my personal opinion, Rafaela is a super utility player on a championship team. I don't know that I want him being my everyday starting center fielder. I think that should be Jarren Duran. And then you kind of figure it out. Like, you need space for Roman Anthony. So would I pull the trigger on that deal? I would be reluctant myself, because it's 1 year of Cease. Unless you're going to extend him too. They still, Crochet's been here since December. We still don't have an extension there. So
Right.
do I have confidence that they would be able to figure something out with Cease when he's up at the end of the year versus you have 2 years of control of Crochet, a little bit of breathing room to negotiate? That would be a tough call for me. I don't know that I would flip one, the 1 year of Cease for however many years of control you have for Abreu.
Okay, assume the extension. Would you move Abreu for Cease?
Yeah.
Okay, you have to, Jared. Come on.
Yeah.
I mean, you got Anthony. There's a little bit of duplication there.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not telling you don't want the bodies, because you do, and I understand your point about Rafaela. But at the end of the day, if you can get the pitcher and sign him, then you do it.
Yeah.
Last question. I've already kept you longer than I wanted to.
I'm happy to talk baseball with you all morning, Tony.
We'll have, thankfully, we're going to have plenty of time this year, I think.
That's right.
Because it's not going to be just about how do they fix it, which is the worst part of when a team stinks or is mediocre. The whole topic is, the only discussion is how do you fix it? When they're good, it introduces a whole other range of things to talk about and frankly, watch and follow. It's much, much, much better this way. But as you look at this whole thing, the signing of Bregman was sort of the linchpin of the whole thing, because it's symbolic in some ways. So you tell me, what did it mean to Red Sox fans that they signed? What should it mean to Red Sox fans that they brought Alex Bregman in on top of Buehler and obviously the trade for Crochet? What did the move signify to you?
Multiple things. To me, it marked the new chapter. It's almost like when we go back to like your first days of covering the Red Sox in the 60s, like it's like, all right, you had the impossible dream team in 67. You had the 75 team, you had 78, you had 86, you had 95 division winner, you had 99 All-Star game era, and then that goes over into like the championship era. You had the 04, the 07, you had the 13. Like every era bled into the next, but it almost felt like from 22 to 24, there was missing pages. Like it was like, it's time to
turn, Jared.
Yeah, it's like we're going to the next chapter, but I have to flip a bunch of pages before I can get to more words. And the next wave, the Myers, the Anthonys, it would have been Teals, and the Campbells now being supplemented by actual big league talent. And to the whole thing about Crochet is he's in his mid-20s. Like this is the exact type of player that the Red Sox would extend themselves on and actually take the risk on a financial investment. A Walker Buehler, who's a been there, done that guy. An Alex Bregman, who's a been there, done that guy. It signifies we're ready for the next chapter. We're ready for the next time you open the Red Sox book, there will be words in there instead of purgatory. So, and again, I know that John Henry is like the most polarizing figure around these parts, but because he's not off the hook in terms, like this could be a 1 year, $40 million deal. So he's not off the hook in terms of taking risk on multi-year deals. Cause really it's been Yoshida and
Devers, if you count that.
Story, I guess. So
you're talking about free agents.
I'm just talking multi-year commitments, because everything else is either a 1 year deal, or it was the James Paxton, we'll give you 2 years, but you're going to be rehabbing for the first, and we'll hope for the best in the second part.
Correct.
Same thing with the Patrick Sandoval thing. It's the same thing. So it's a lot of 1 year deals. He's off the hook in terms of ponying up the money to put it over the top to get the player, because Bregman had options. Houston was 6. Detroit was 6. The Cubs were 5. They probably could have got talked into 6. So he had his options. It wasn't like he said, all right, I got nothing better to do, so I might as well go to Boston. The Red Sox made it enticing to Bregman. John Henry made it enticing to Bregman by going to $40 million a year. So he deserves his credit for that. That's what it signifies to me, is John Henry woke up. He cares again, or at least it appears he cares again. And it signifies that next chapter should begin in 2025.
Yeah, the whole thing with ownership is always scary to me, Jared, because on the one hand, you say, have they stopped caring? And I think the last 4 or 5 years, a lot went wrong for them, but they didn't do enough to keep the fan base engaged. So it certainly felt like they stopped caring. I'm with you. Like, do you want to win or not? What's the story? And yet, if you were to say to me, do you want them to sell? I lived through the Yawkey Trust when they were a mid-market team. I don't want to go back there. So, to me, I think a lot of people are stuck in the middle there. And look, if these owners, when they're engaged, are good, they'll put the money down. And to me, that's the biggest thing is, so look, I'm happy that this went the way it did. Because the best case scenario, I think, is you have owners with deep pockets who are engaged. And right now it feels like that has happened again, at least in the short term. But again, in the long term, we don't know. Before I let you go, I don't think we've made any sort of formal announcements yet, but I'm assuming you and I texted about this. You will be back on the Baseball Hour this year. That is what we're both hoping for.
God rest his soul, Tim Wakefield. I'm on the Tim Wakefield plan for the Baseball Hour. Just 1-year deals until I retire. Every year, you don't have to worry if I'm going to come back or not. I'll be back. The 1-year contract until I retire. You can take that to the bank, Tony.
Okay, so for people who don't know what you talk about, Wakefield had a regenerating option on his contract.
Yeah,
Red Sox would sign him to a 1-year deal with an option. And then if they picked up the option, it automatically added another option. Mm-hmm. So it was a bottomless 1-year deal with an option. So that's what you are. Is that what you're saying?
I'm the Tim Wakefield of the Baseball Hour. Yes.
You're a bad negotiator, Jared, but we'll take it. So look, seriously, I'm looking forward to the season. I admit it. I'm thrilled. Again, I don't know what it means in the longer term, but we all want a team and it looks like we're going to have one. So, thanks for doing this. And I look forward to, 1 day a week with you in all probability, on occasion more, if there's a reason to do it, when the season starts. So we'll talk to you soon.
Can't wait. Check out the Baseball Hour, 6 to 7 with Jared Carrabis and Tony, the Red Sox Bobo Massarotti, only on 98.5 The Sports Hub.
You want to plug your own podcast while you're here? Section 10 podcast?
Yeah, Section 10. Yeah. We talk about the Red Sox. It's a good time.
With Tyler Milliken of our own Tyler Milliken as well.
Yep.
All right, we'll catch you soon. Thanks, everybody, for watching and listening.